If you have two different visions for your family, two parents, both are well-meaning, they both want the best for their children, but they have two visions to accomplish that,
Right.
it's going to create confusion for the kids.
Absolutely.
They're not going to understand or know who to follow.
Right.
And I would add one other thing. It doesn't just create confusion, it creates competition. Hey everyone, I'm Larry.
And I'm Julia.
Welcome to the Beautifully Blended podcast, where our passion is to help blended families and marriages to find help, hope, and healing.
Yes, we've been married for 15 years.
Yes, we have.
And we have seen the ups and downs, the ins and outs, and all arounds. How about that?
Yeah.
I never did that before.
No, you're rapping. That's awesome.
Never knew I could rap. And we want to come alongside you in your journey
Right.
and encourage you as you make this plan to beautifully blend your family and your marriage.
So, I mean, having a vision for this,
Yeah.
we didn't know that we would end up recording. And this is actually our 16th episode.
Woohoo!
So we are cooking.
We're cooking.
Yeah, 16th episode, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We're just going to keep going and trying to help one family at a time as best as we can share our stories, share truth, and try to help families to, find a way forward. A lot of people feel like it's hopeless or it won't work, but we want to help them to see that it can work.
We never imagined that we'd be at this place, right?
Yeah.
When we got married, we never imagined that we'd be here
No,
recording these episodes,
nah.
encouraging people.
No, we were looking for an episode to listen to.
Right. And there were no episodes. We had no episodes.
We
So
had
this
no
is you
episodes.
benefit from us not knowing what we were doing.
Yeah, for sure. So today we're just going to jump in.
Yes, let's go.
And talk about some things that I think are going to be helpful. So when you get married, obviously you bring two people into the marriage,
Yes. Yep.
which means you have two ideas.
Yes.
You have two sets of visions.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to talk about how just because you have two people coming to one marriage doesn't mean you don't need one vision.
That's true. Yep.
You need one direction. You need one singular direction. It gets sketchy and challenging
Right.
when two people come together with the best approach to make our marriage successful.
Right.
And both people believe that they have the best approach to make the marriage successful. No one comes in and says, I got the worst idea ever, but let's just do it and see what happens. No, everybody believes that they have.
Let's just go for it. It's the best. It's the worst approach. But
Right. They believe they can make it work.
Right.
That's why you get married, because you think you can make it work.
Right.
But two people can come together with two visions, but we need to reduce that to make sure that there is only one executable vision in that marriage, because if not, it'll cause some problems.
All right. So here's the question.
Okay?
What happens when the two don't become one?
That's a good question. You stand at the altar, you say, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't know what you did,
No,
but you do it.
but you do it.
You do it
Or
anyway.
you're going to try to do it.
You're going to try to do it.
Yes.
And the two becoming one, if that doesn't happen, then it's going to destroy the foundation of what could be a beautiful foundation for a family to grow and blossom.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to destroy that foundation. The other thing that it's going to do is it's going to destroy trust
Yeah.
and open communication.
Mm-hmm.
If the two never become one, what that essentially communicates is I still don't trust you.
Wow. The two stays two.
The two stay two. Right. If two don't become one in
Right.
a marriage, trust is never developed. And your marriage runs on like trust and communication. Like if you don't have
Right.
trust and communication, then there is no, it's going to be hard for you to stay married.
Right, right. And when I asked the question, I jumped in, Mark 10:9, therefore what God has joined together, let no one separate.
Right.
And just this idea of the two becoming one flesh. And so, I absolutely agree. If the two don't become one, then you're separate.
Yeah. So we there's a couple of points that we want to make here as we talk about, division, two visions
Right.
in a marriage, because that's really what it is. Growing up in church, I used to hear all the time, like, two heads make a monster. Like, you can't have two
Right.
people heading up something, or two visions, because if you're walking in two different directions, you're not going to be unified.
No.
You're not going to stay together, and neither one of you will accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish.
Right.
So the first point that I want to make up here, I'm not making up points. The first point that I want to bring up
There you go.
here is two visions for a marriage create tension.
Yeah.
So you cannot walk in two different directions. It's impossible for you and your spouse to walk in multiple directions.
Right, right. So I got 3 points I want to share specifically about what you just said. The first one is that a shared vision creates a common direction.
Right.
That's essentially what you were saying.
Yeah.
You can't both go in the same direction if you're going opposite directions. You're not going the same way.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your dreams and aspirations for the future, you have to be able to come together and have that one shared vision.
So I think when people get married, they often have dreams that they want to accomplish, but many times they don't think about the pathway that is required to accomplish those dreams.
Okay.
For instance, if we go on a vacation,
Okay.
we just can't dream about the beach and say, oh, it's going to be so wonderful. We're going to put our feet in the sand and soak up the sun, right? That's not the only thing that we can think about in order for us to actually get there.
Right.
We have to think about plane tickets.
Right.
You got to think about, or if we're driving to the closest beach to us,
Right.
which is in Virginia or Maryland, we got to think about how to get there. We got to pack clothes. We got to think of the logistics that get us there. And I believe when couples are married, whether it's a blended marriage, blended family, or you and someone decided to, join yourselves together, I believe it is hard for you to think about the details that lead you to that outcome. You just dream about that outcome.
Right.
But you have to have shared vision when it comes to packing.
Right.
How many times have we packed to go somewhere and you're packing 3 months before the trip and I'm packing the night before the trip?
I know. Oh.
And I'm just... Go ahead, talk about it. You want to talk about it?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm packing the night before the trip because I'm just like, I got this. I'll, put my stuff in the suitcase and then we'll just get up and go. If I forget something, where are we going to go? Dollar Tree. Because she's going to make me go to Dollar Tree.
Everywhere we go.
Everywhere we go. Every country. It doesn't matter. Uno Tree and...
Stop it.
Okay. So...
Stop it.
She's going to make us do something and we'll figure it out. But her vision for packing is different than my vision for packing. I'm sure there are other examples where our visions are different, but when you talk about sharing our dreams and aspirations, it's easy to do that, but we also have to give some deep thought to the path that leads to those dreams and leads to those aspirations, because that's where conflict will happen.
Right, right. The goal in our packings, for that example, our goal is for us to get there and to get there with the stuff that we need.
Yeah.
And so we share that goal and that vision, even though we start out with different visions of what it looks like to pack and go. We come together and there's unity when it comes to actually executing it. So I wanted to make sure I stated that too.
Yeah, so Scripture has something to say about that in Amos 3 and verse 3. And it reminds us, do two walk together unless they are agreed? This verse underscores the importance of agreement. It speaks directly to we cannot walk together unless we agree on which direction we are walking in.
Right.
If you don't agree on the direction that you're walking in, you will not be able to walk with your spouse. You will not be able to walk in a singular direction in
Right.
step with one another.
Right. So what I hear you saying is division focuses on the problem, but unity focuses on the goal.
Okay.
That's
I'll
what I
take
hear
that.
you say.
Is that what you hear?
Yes.
You just tickled yourself.
I did. And it's okay.
No, that's good. I think the second point that I want to make is division creates confusion for the children.
Oh, yeah.
If you have two different visions for your family, two parents, both are well-meaning, they both want the best for their children, but they have two visions to accomplish that,
Right.
it's going to create confusion for the kids.
Absolutely.
They're not going to understand or know who to follow.
Right.
And I would add one other thing. It doesn't just create confusion, it creates competition. It makes your kids make a decision and say, daddy's way is the best way and I'm going to follow daddy, or mommy's way is the best way and I'm going to follow mommy. It makes them compete because they're thinking, well, I've lived with my dad all of these years and he's never steered me wrong. So
Right.
when he makes a decision in this marriage, I'm choosing my dad over my stepmom, or I'm choosing my mom over my stepdad.
Right.
So not only does it create confusion, it creates competition.
It does. It does. It breeds insecurity,
Yeah.
lack of trust,
Yep.
further division just in
Right.
the family unit. I mean, even, when you see kids and they like pick and choose, like, you know what? If we ask mommy on this day,
Yeah, for sure.
she'll say, like you're causing just more conflicts and issues, and you
Right.
don't want that. No,
I would say the third thing is it creates a strain on the marriage.
absolutely.
If you have two different ideas of what the future looks like for your family, it will cause strain and tension in the marriage.
Absolutely.
We've said multiple times, as the marriage goes, the family goes.
Right.
A healthy marriage makes for a healthy family.
Right.
If you blend your marriage well,
Right.
you will blend your family well.
Right.
There isn't a shortcut to that.
Right.
There isn't an out. I'm
Right.
going to use the cheat code on this. There is no cheat code,
No cheat code.
for this. So, we just want to make sure that we remember the children, remember division, and we don't want to create a strain on our marriage,
Right.
because we're not willing to come together.
Right. Right. So the strength of our family is found in the strength of our marriage. Our marriage must be the foundation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So let's look at some practical steps towards unity. Unity matters a great deal. You can't find the goal if you're not unified
Yeah.
as a husband and a wife team. So some of the practical steps that we want to talk about towards unity include regular communication.
Yep.
Now, we've talked about in a prior podcast how when you are born, when you are young, you learn how to talk,
Right.
but you don't learn how to communicate.
Right.
I think about our son, who is 7 years old right now, and we're teaching him how to communicate. And if he doesn't get his way, he makes faces, and he's just like, I'm like, little boy, sit down and do what I told you to do. But his communication is immature.
Right.
You see that in marriages sometimes,
Right.
where there is immature communication, there is jealousy, there's competition, there is a temper tantrum
Right.
thrown by the wife or thrown by the husband. So
Right.
learning how to communicate regularly about the things that are important
Right.
to you and being honest about those things is going to help that husband and that wife really stay and maintain unified.
Absolutely. Another thing I think about is joint planning. And we talked about this in a previous episode about the need to have a shared mission statement.
Yeah, that was in episode 11, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And so that just meant that you have to be intentional about sitting down, planning out.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? What is our mission? What is
Yeah.
what do we want to do?
Right.
We used to have meetings as a family.
Yeah.
Our family meetings.
Yeah.
But in those meetings, we would talk through like, this is what we're going to do. This is this is what we're going to do over the summer.
Yeah.
Even when it came to us buying our house, we had to sit down and say, okay, we're going to be buying a house, building a house. That means some things we wanted to do this year, we're not going to do.
Yeah.
So we have to reprioritize what we're actually going to do based on what our ultimate goal is, which is to build this house.
Yeah. No, I think there has to be a willingness to lay down your ideas, even if you think they're great ideas.
Right.
It has to be a willingness for you to lay down those ideas so that you can accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish.
Right.
Like when you brought up the house, I remember us making time for what was most important for us.
Right.
We were able to determine and evaluate what was most important to us by what we made time for.
Right.
So joint planning, sitting down, putting it on a calendar, and saying, listen, we're going to sit down and talk about this. Listen, we talk about having one vision.
Right.
When we first got married, you pulled out my phone and said, this is a Google Calendar. And with this Google Calendar, you will put your information on here. I will put my information. Now we have like 6 different calendars to keep track of, or help us to communicate.
Right.
Having a joint calendar is another way for you guys to communicate. And it has become very much a part of our culture in our marriage for us to say, I have a meeting. Okay, did you put it on the calendar?
Right.
And that's a way for couples to learn how to have a singular vision and direction.
Very practical
for their family.
Absolutely.
It's extremely practical. You came up with it and forced me to put it on my phone.
Listen, if it's not on there, it's not happening. That was a thought process.
That was a thought. It ain't real. Is it on the calendar? Is it on the family calendar?
Right.
No. Yeah, you're right.
Right. It was helpful. I mean, and then the third one would be prayer and reflection, like seeking God, seeking his guidance. You know, as Christians, he should be the first person we're talking to anyway. But in order to bring that unity, we got to seek him for guidance. Yeah. Because I can feel like my way is right. You can feel like your way is right. But let's go to God together and seek him for guidance.
Right.
That is going to be the game changer. And that's going to help us to align our spiritual journey and our spiritual goals and the spiritual aspect of our family and our marriage if we come together.
Is there unity if you don't go to God?
No.
Tell the people why. I think it's a good conversation because some people can say, yeah, we get along.
Right.
Is that unity? Right. Is that biblical unity?
Right.
Like, let's talk about that.
So I believe there's not unity in that marriage if you do not go to God. And I believe that is true because I believe that when we go to God, we go to a source that is higher and greater than us. He has wisdom that far exceeds ours. He knows the end from the beginning. He knows what's it's going to take to get us from point A to point B. Right. And so when we go together in unity and seek God, I feel that that is a more unified, and I believe you are unified when you do that.
I agree. I think in doing that, you are practicing self-denial too. Going to God in prayer as a couple is an act of practicing self-denial, which a lot of married couples are horrible at. Right. We are good at self-promotion. Yeah. We are good at promoting ourselves and our ideas and our thoughts and, you know, whatever we want to promote, we're really, really good at that. But going to God first is an act of self-denial. When you go to God first, what you are acknowledging, which we need to acknowledge more of, is I don't have the answers. I really don't. I don't know the direction. Scripture tells us to lean not on our own understanding, but in all of our ways, acknowledge him. He will direct our path. Right. That is a scripture that needs to take root in marriages so that those couples who are moving slowly but surely in different directions, they're able to come back. Right. And the last thing I'll say, and then you can weigh in, but I think it's hard to be unified without having a source of right and a source of holiness. Yeah. Like if you don't agree on what's right and you don't agree to come back to what's right in your own individual personal life, then you will continue to wander in ways that are unhealthy for the future of that marriage.
Absolutely. You need a mediator,
Yeah.
right?
One that's right.
The right mediator. Right.
Right. Your cousin can't be the mediator.
No, Jesus. Let him be the mediator. Let him be the mediator. It reminds me of Psalm 133:1, which says, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity.
Yeah.
How often have we actually considered that for our marriage?
Yeah.
It's so much better in our marriage and our families when we dwell together, when we're together in unity.
I think it's important for us to like put out there that things don't necessarily unify us.
Yeah.
In a marriage where you have two different visions, two different directions, going to the movies together doesn't necessarily bring you back together and unify you.
Right.
Even sitting down to have dinner together may not be the solution. It's an act that leads towards something meaningful. But if there are two different visions for your family, you guys are going in different directions, don't rely heavily on, oh, I know what to do. Let me bring her flowers.
Yeah.
Or let me make him a sandwich. Like those are the things that we lean towards, but they're not necessarily the things that unify us.
Absolutely. I agree.
You know, as we wrap this up, we talked about several things. We talked about how if you have two visions for your family, then it will cause confusion with your children. It will destroy the trust. Like there will never be trust developed. It'll put a strain on your marriage.
Right.
And those are just a few things that can happen. There are probably other things that we didn't discuss in this episode that can happen. But if you are in a place where you feel like you and your spouse have two different visions, two different directions for your family, and you're not sure what to do about it because you guys are walking in different directions and you cannot agree. If you're walking in two different directions, there has to be an agreement to where we are going and how we are going to get there. If you feel like you're in a place like that, we want to encourage you to listen again, take notes on this episode. I believe we gave you some things that are helpful.
Right.
We are praying for you. We're praying for all of you. Everyone who is watching this episode, we just want you to be blessed. We want you to be okay. We want you to blend beautifully and have a successful marriage. Again, thank you for watching our podcast. Like, subscribe, share. There are other people out there who can be blessed through this content. And if you were blessed, drop us a note. We want to hear. We want to hear from you. We want to know that this content was helpful to you and your family. God bless you and thank you again.